We are talking about women's health and sexual health, longevity, and about putting more juice and joy in our lives over 40 with the girlfriend doctor, Anna Cabeca. Anna is my favorite women's doctor because not only is she a fabulous human and a brilliant clinician, but she has an incredible holistic approach to women's health, combining her vast knowledge of Western and Eastern methodologies. She is triple board certified and a fellow of gynecology and obstetrics, integrative medicine, and anti aging and regenerative medicine. And she also holds special certifications in functional medicine, sexual health, and bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. And one of Anna's many superpowers is that she is a master of explaining what's going on in our bodies in a simple and accessible way. She's honest, she speaks from the heart, and she's just got a fantastic sense of humor. And her three books, The Hormone Fix, Keto Green 16, and Menopause, are helping women all over the world navigate menopause with ease and vitality. And if you're struggling with your sexual health and feeling disconnected to the people in your life, oh, Anna has got the goods. She has developed some of the most extraordinary products to help women thrive through menopause. Her Julva cream has completely changed my life and the lives of many women in our community. And I am going to ask her about all of it. So strap in, let's dive in and get the skinny from Dr. Anna Cabeca. Oh, Anna, I am so excited to get into women's health with you. And I want to start with your personal story of going into menopause early, because this is personal for you, your work.
It is very personal, and thank you for having me, Tess. And I
Oh,
love to, you know, to help other women go through the journey. They didn't have to deal with the messes that I dealt with.
yeah, we have had some great conversations over the years.
Absolutely, absolutely. And part of my personal story is post traumatically having experiencing infertility at age 39, going through several rounds of fertility therapies and the highest doses of injectable medications and not having any ovarian response, and then being diagnosed with early menopause at 39 years old. And that led me on a healing journey around the world. Actually, did come to Australia and it spent a couple of months there. And then I went to Ubud in Bali,
Oh,
and it just so many amazing, serendipitously meeting amazing healers. But as a result of that journey and digging into Eastern and traditional medicines, combining it with my medical knowledge, and really, I say the grace of God, um, reverse the early menopause diagnosis. And then naturally, I conceived a child I was told I would never be able to have when I was 41 years old. And so that really, like, through that experience, and it really changed the way I looked at health and healing and my job as a physician, and inspired me to, like, it takes more than hormones to fix our hormones. The body is so powerful. We can be healthier tomorrow than we are today. And so I'm now 59 years old, turned 59 last month. And I am just like, I feel like I'm healthier than I was in my 30s.
I feel that way too. It is
Yes.
so extraordinary when you're able to take charge of your health like this. So I want to talk about this. It takes more than your hormones to fix your hormones, because what you teach is so holistic and so wonderful. But before we talk about that, I want to go back to what you were saying about this infertility in your 30s and reversing your early menopause diagnosis, because somebody listening might be going, "What? Oh, come on. That's snake oil." But it is possible.
Oh,
So, what did you do?
well, for me, it was the adaptogen. So that I ended up incorporating into my Mighty Maca formula. Maca, when I went to Peru in 2006, and they said, if you're infertile, drink maca. If you're tired, drink maca. And then they would elbow my husband at the time and say, it's the Peruvian Viagra. I'm like, okay, let's have some maca. But
For
I'm
somebody
like,
that doesn't know what maca is like us, let's talk about this amazing root.
yeah, so maca is indigenous to Peru, and it grows at a high altitude, like 11,000 feet, 9,000 feet and above in the Andes in Peru. And it's a root that has specific proteins. They're called macaines, and they're very specific to Peruvian maca. Chinese maca is not the same. And it also is rich in arginine, which increases nitric oxide formation, which is how which increases blood flow, and that's how Viagra works. I was like, "Huh, there may be some science to this, right?" But, like, and it's adaptogenic. It's adrenal adaptogen. It's probably also a genetic adaptogen. So whether you're in overdrive or underdrive, so whether you're wired or tired, it really comes in and helps support your body natural hormonal production and detoxification. And it's been shown to improve all aspects of sexual function, decrease hot flashes, be protective, breast protective, be anti-inflammatory. It has so many good aspects to it that I was, you know, really committed to taking it. But like you, I mean, if it doesn't taste good, I'm not gonna do it. So that like I don't
And
care.
mother is assertive. You know, she's a bully, and you can put a little bit in and it dramatically changes the flavor profile of smoothies and shakes. And that's typically how, we put it in bliss balls and all kinds of other things, but it can really take over. So that is something that was a bit of a triumph for you, is making it taste good.
Yeah, and adding other antioxidants and good extracts, fruit extracts, and like mangosteen and pomegranate and acerola cherry and
Yeah.
the different blends of greens, the detoxifiers, and all those things to like, I'm gonna make this powerful because I don't want to take a handful of pills, but if I can take this as a shot or put it in my smoothies,
And
perfect.
now you
Even
have
my
it in capsule
3-year-old
form.
drinks it.
You have it in capsules too now.
And I do. I have it in capsules without stevia, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, it's really handy.
Yeah, and that is not the only thing that you did, because we don't want to be telling the story that, oh, I just took a supplement and my menopause woes were over, right? That was one of the many things that you did. So let's talk about your your keto fix and some of the oxytocin and all these other things that you recognized were part of the magic puzzle.
Yeah. Well, and additionally, right? So it's definitely working with nutrition. And I say medicinal foods or medicinal menus. And for me, that incorporates the keto green, what I call keto green aspect. And this means low carbohydrate, but healthy carbs, like our complex carbs from like cruciferous vegetables like broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, broccoli sprouts, and beet greens and macas in the cruciferous family, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
So these help with estrogen detoxification. That's powerful. So these medicinal foods, I start to incorporate more of these, and to get and to really drive insulin down, to decrease insulin resistant, because that will interfere with pregnancy and fertility and it increases ovarian aging. So we don't want that. So intermittent fasting became key, and high quality protein and healthy fats. Our hormones are made from fat, are made from
Yeah.
cholesterol. So this concept of a healthy ketogene nutrition plan with intermittent fasting was part of was part of this puzzle, these pieces to the puzzle that I found. And of course, like the most important thing is when I think of like our hormones, I think of this hormonal hierarchy. I created this hormonal hierarchy where oxytocin is our queen mother of hormones, right? It is our queen mother. It is, the hormone of love connection. It is scientifically been shown to be anti inflammatory, to be regenerative, repair muscles, to support the immune system, to support brain health. And we think of the characteristics of oxytocin, I think of the blue zones. I think of
Yeah.
what are the characteristics in the blue zones that contribute to their longevity? And it's community, it's healthy relationships, long-lasting marriages, uh, having good a faith-based practice, whatever it may be, like a spiritual practice or faith-based or meditative practice. It's getting out in nature, doing things you enjoy doing with people you enjoy doing them with. All of that increases oxytocin. I think that's the secret sauce, to be honest.
Oh, I
But part of my
love how you teach about oxytocin, because we're just not talking about it enough. So thank you for the work that you're doing with that. So can we just get into the weeds a little bit? So dear listener, you understand exactly what oxytocin is. So you talked about it being the love connection hormone. Can we talk about how we where oxytocin plays a role in our life, like in childbirth, orgasm, things like that. Can you just talk us through that? And then the relationship with insulin and how they work in consort with each other.
Or with cortisol. Yeah,
Sorry,
absolutely.
cortisol and oxytocin, pardon me. And then I want to talk about the blood sugar piece with the insulin and how it all comes together. Yeah.
Yeah, so under like this hormonal hierarchy is so key because everything works together. But with oxytocin, as an obstetrician, I learned about oxytocin. I injected oxytocin in my patients during labor, pitocin. If you ever received pitocin
Yeah.
during labor, that's oxytocin that helps stimulate contractions. When we breastfeed, we increase oxytocin, and that helps again this bonding. I think about how nature made us to imprint. I think I've had children now, so I think about this a lot, but not only as an obstetrician, but the incredible effect of these hormones when, when we stimulate oxytocin, it stimulates contractions and we go through labor. It's a natural analgesic and amnestic. So, in other words, it makes you forget the pain that you actually experience. So, otherwise, we'd only have ever one child. So, it's so true. But oxytocin is part of that. And then you get this child and you're like, oh my God, I never knew love felt like I could feel this kind of love. But that's bonding that helps you protect and nurture and care for this child, as well as every time you nurse or breastfeed, that oxytocin secreted. And that's further imprinting. And we know oxytocin early in life, from touching, cuddling, nursing, a child is associated with less addictive behavior, better social adaptation, relationship skills, decreased, autoimmune disease. And I mean, that's powerful. That's powerful. We're designed that way. And oxytocin's produced. There was a study Paul Zak did, Dr. Paul Zak, PhD, did looking at oxytocin, and he studied different situations and checked to see what increased oxytocin the most. So he went to this wedding and he checks the entire bridal party. And the person with the highest oxytocin was, I don't think it should surprise anyone, but was the bride. The highest oxytocin was the bride. But guess who had the second highest oxytocin?
Oh, I don't know.
The mother of the bride.
Well, I was going to say that, and then I second guessed myself.
Yeah, it was not the groom. It was not. It was the mother of the bride. And I think that is so cool. And I think of the traditional societies. I've really studied world medicine and societies and what helps us survive wars and conflicts and trauma and grief and child loss and all those things. When I think of these traditional societies and the wedding, like the wedding of like an Indian or Arab family, there's like hundreds of people at this wedding, like 500, 600 people. Your whole community's there, everyone's involved, everyone's dancing, there's music, both increase oxytocin, good community. So you're like you're creating this bath in oxytocin to further foster bonding. And I think that has to play a role in longevity of relationships.
Yeah, oh, I
Maybe we
love
don't.
that term oxytocin bath.
Oh,
So,
yes.
how can we bathe ourselves in oxytocin throughout the day?
Yeah. And this is where I like to say we need to microdose oxytocin throughout the day.
I love that.
And the beautiful thing is, like, the best pharmacy in the world is our own body. We make this
Mm.
oxytocin and we make it not just in our uterus and our womb. The way we produce oxytocin is certainly we have glands that produce oxytocin, predominantly in the pituitary, but the heart has both oxytocin receptors and produces oxytocin. So, hence this powerful energetic force within us. It produces oxytocin and also has receptors for oxytocin. And so, in my trauma, and you hear the word heartache. I mean, I had felt that heartache, that heartbreak, that complete constricture of my heart. And I think it's that effect of loss of oxytocin or that profound love and the high cortisol antagonistic effect on our oxytocin receptors. But the heart really does, like, it hurt. It hurt. And So, and other places like with vaginal distension, so with intercourse, with childbirth, that increases oxytocin. Af- uh, Stomach distension, so having a full moon, I'm happy and well fed. That full stomach, having a full stomach increases oxytocin,
Oh,
and
yes,
so
it does.
yes, it does, and so that's why, like, that fasting or that intermittent fasting and not snacking is really important, so you can really feel that happy fullness, that happy shift versus if we're eating, like, regularly all day. I think that allowing, that constricture or contraction and then that expansion, like, that increases oxytocin. Definitely happier. Definitely happier, and then,
Yeah.
of course, positive touch and thoughts, spiritual practice, prayer, gratitude, walking, doing things you love, gardening, enjoying nature, singing, dancing, music, all of those things increase oxytocin throughout our body. We have receptors throughout our body and touch receptors physically on our body. With that stimulation, positive touch increases oxytocin, including a head rub. Oh my God, I love going
Oh,
to my
so do
hairdresser
I.
and getting a head rub.
Oh,
Oh, it feels good.
so do I. A head massage, I could have one of those all day, every day. So, hugging, having sex, how do we stroke ourselves if we live alone, for example, and you want to
Yeah.
be bathing, you're getting these oxytocin hits, microdosing throughout the day?
Well, definitely too, the research shows that having a pet
Mm.
increases oxytocin. So playfulness of a pet. I don't know how much with cats, 'cause I'm not a cat person, but with dogs, definitely the research is there with dogs and they greet you very happily. But being able to even stroke, like an animal, like a cat or a
Yeah,
dog, and horses looking eye to eye with another living being, whatever that living being is, that is a way to increase oxytocin. But even like positive touch, in the shower or with yourself, self-pleasuring, a huge way to increase
yeah,
oxytocin. No partner, no problem.
yep,
And then again, doing activities and meditation. We talked about sound baths and how that can mean, sound baths can feel physiologically levitating and it
yeah.
can increase oxytocin. So those are that part of that stimulation of our innate sensation systems increase oxytocin. What else? Um, Shopping, that definitely hanging out with girlfriends,
Laughing, watching funny
laughing.
things, dancing.
Absolutely. I always sometimes I prescribe for my patients, watch My Big Fat Greek Wedding. That will increase your oxytocin.
I watch Schitt's Creek. If I want to get a hit of oxytocin throughout the day, I'm jumping on my rebounder watching Schitt's Creek because I'm jumping, stimulating myself, and I'm laughing my head off. It's amazing. So we want to talk about cortisol because we don't talk about these control hormones enough and this relationship between cortisol and oxytocin. So when our sex hormones, these protective hormones decline, as we age, our cortisol levels rise. So, can you talk us through that and why it's so important to be monitoring and recognizing when we're experiencing elevated stress?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to put this in context because when I think of our hormone hierarchy and all our hormones like melatonin, even vitamin D as a really misnamed, it's more of a pro hormone, estrogen, DHEA, I mean, even progesterone and pregnenolone. I like to give the example of like a university setting. All the students of the university are like these hormones. They each have their own roles, passions, purposes, talents, gifting, direction, etc. But the regulatory hormones that control in a way lead to control them, to modulate them, are like the professors at the university. And this is cortisol, insulin, and adrenaline. So if you've ever had a professor come in or a teacher come in hungover, high, whatever, and they're like, turn the lights out, play a movie, there's chaos in the classroom, right? Versus a really good professor that's instructing, you're inspired, right? That's different. We want to keep these hormones in optimum function. And as our reproductive hormones decline, insulin and cortisol increase. And these are catabolic hormones, they break us down. They, work against our physiology. And what I found through my own trauma and PTSD, and I had to go to the research because I was feeling disconnected. I was feeling I I say the physiology of divorce. I knew I had loved my husband, but I no longer felt love for him. I loved my work, but I was burnt out and I dreaded going in. And that's that physiology when cortisol's winning. Because when cortisol goes up, oxytocin gets suppressed. Because again, you're in high stress, no time to love on your enemy, right? They don't coexist at those high levels
Yeah.
together. So you're in this high stress survival state. And so cortisol goes up, oxytocin goes down. And contrary, oxytocin, when you increase oxytocin, cortisol goes down.
Yeah.
There's the fluctuations throughout the day of cortisol, but when you're in chronic everyday stress for a long time, or post traumatic stress, the paraventricular nucleus area of the brain says, okay, cortisol, you're frying me out. I'm going to suppress you because you're like in catabolism. I'm breaking down muscle, breaking down bone, very acidic, and so it says, okay, we got to suppress you. And you come into this dangerous, but oxytocin stays suppressed. So, this physiology, and this is very well described in PTSD, everyday trauma, post pandemic stress, what this feels like is that isolation. Your world's getting smaller. You're withdrawing from the world more. You don't feel pleasure. You have anhedonia, lack of feelings of pleasure. You're less connected. You burnt out. So I say it's the physiology of depression, physiology of divorce, and it's physiologic. I want to give the example of a patient. Like once I learned this, I started implementing, okay, what did I need to do to increase oxytocin in my own life? How can I help my patients? And I had a male patient come in to see me. I always give guys credit because if they come to see a gynecologist, they got to have a good sense of self, right?
Absolutely. How many men come to see you?
Usually the wives send me, but this guy, because he had trauma
Okay.
and he'd heard my story,
Yeah.
he came in to see me and he goes, and he was in his mid 30s and he'd been in a train accident. And since that train accident, everything in his life was like he recovered physically, but he said, like I know I love my wife, I love my kids, but I am so detached from them. I'm so disconnected. I'm so detached. I feel like, I, like I don't feel love for them. Like intellectually, I know like I did love them, but I don't feel it anymore. And, I hate my work. I've lost my friends. I'm really struggling. And so we looked at his, traumatic experience, the trauma of the train accident, but also how that affected a traumatic brain injury and how that could have impacted him too. So addressing these areas, I really talked to him about I did my oxytocin quiz and and it, coached him on increasing oxytocin. And and I also prescribed him at that point oxytocin for a short time over three to 6 months to kind of get him out of this, like to get him feeling again and
Yeah.
try to do these things. But he totally turned his life around, like reconnected with was playing with his daughter, reconnected with his wife, was happy and joyful again, was like purposeful. His passions were back. And if we understand that physiology, like we say, physiology affects behavior, behavior can also affect physiology. So if we know that, making that, if you don't feel like it, but making that effort to go out and play, go to the playground, get on the swing with your daughter. I mean,
Yeah.
do these activities, things that you enjoy, incorporate that into your life. Laughter, what funny movies can you watch? What can you do together that makes you laugh? And, put yourself in that space. Plus, I will say a spiritual practice is key too, then you're producing more of that oxytocin again and you will defeat cortisol. I also make people check their urine pH. And when he checked his urine pH was very acidic. So it
Yeah.
should be greater than 7. Ideally, when we wake up and when we go to bed. But his was really acidic. So just by monitoring his pH, he could see where his nutrition, his lifestyle, his oxytocin increasing behaviors could improve his urine pH, improve that alkalinity because oxytocin is alkalinizing, cortisol is acidifying. So
Yes.
there's a way, to measure, and then you improve. You improve your physiology, and that just shifts everything.
And, we don't, again, talk about this enough that stress manifests as inappropriate and excessive inflammation in the body. Like you were just talking
Absolutely.
about that acid creates inflammation, and inflammation is the root of all disease, which progresses to chronic disease. And that's just the formula. That's the rub of life, right? But it is, it's just so important to talk about this. We were talking about Bali before we hit record about how you're going there. And I remember I went to this laughing workshop and we all just stood there and started to laugh. And we were in a circle and everybody just was laughing for an hour. I literally felt like I had taken the greatest drug on planet Earth just from laughing and hearing other people laugh. Like when James Lipton asks, in Inside the Actor Studio, what's the greatest sound? And someone says, the sound of people laughing. I
Oh,
so relate to that. And so I love what you're saying about cultivating a mindful practice of putting yourself in a sense of play, in a state where you are enjoying yourself and you are in community with others. And it is a mindful practice that we need to actually actively and consciously seek out those opportunities and put ourselves in that space. I want
and
to
I
ask
want to
you a question.
emphasize that, especially listeners that think that, okay, well, and I want to just be honest and say that, that PTSD put me into a state of depression and suicidal ideation
Yeah.
and like a complete disconnect and burnout. And definitely the nutrition, the keto green, all that was important, but the oxytocin increasing practices, focusing on gratitude, on positivity, reframing how I thought and saw myself and the world, that was like pulling myself up by my bootstraps, into another vibration, another energetic vibration. And I think that is so key. So that throughout the day we can do that. And we find sometimes we have to make up the things that, because when you're in that dark, for me, certainly, and I know with many of my patients that are in this state of dark depression, it can feel like, oh, there's nothing I like about myself or nothing I like in the world. And you're
Yeah.
in that really that suppress that physiologic state, and it's dangerous. But you can say there's always something, like I'm breathing. I have a strong body. I have good legs. I can walk. I have a bed, a pillow on my bed that I can sleep on. There's a blue skies today. And you just start like finding these things that you overlook because you're in this dark place. And you just start finding these things. And gradually, I promise you, it brings you out of for me, I like to say the pits of hell. Definitely brought me out of the pits of hell.
It can feel very, very dark.
Yeah.
So, is that where you start with your patients and your community? Because, listener, you may be feeling in that place and going, well, that's all fine to say gratitude, gratitude. But I feel in such a pit that I don't even know how to take the first step.
Yeah, and it is this whole piece together. But I will tell you, like in my book, The Hormone Fix, there's a daily activity log, and this is something I give my patients. I give my members in Magic Menopause and Breeze program. I give them this checklist, this questionnaire, this daily, I say daily activity log, to go through on a daily basis to focus on these positivity factors. So it's like it's in my book, I start with, what are you grateful for? And like that's a key part. Like, what are you grateful for? And I want you to document it every day. And then what's your cheer word? I have clients choose a cheer word because I'm a great observer of people. I love to watch people. I like to look at their expressions. And this is something I learned in that healing journey because
Yeah.
we were on this flight to Australia, and yeah, it was great. We were on
It's
this
a
flight to
long flight, so you got
it's
lots of time to think.
it's a long flight, and I have like I had two kids with me, and my husband, and oh, actually, he wasn't like I thought he didn't have a seat on the flight. So turned out he ended up in first class, didn't tell us halfway through the plane ride. But anyway, so it's me and the girls. I don't know where it's where my husband is. Like his seat got taken or whatever. And I'm on this flight now from LA to Australia. And this guy's like, oh, I was struggling with the kids and I'm like, I'm sorry. He's like, oh, no worries. And, no worries. Let me help you. And he was like this Australian. He was very happy. He had lovely smile lines and laugh lines. And I was like, ah, how interesting. Cause like in his language, we say hello in America. You guys say, you know, like no worries. Or what do you say when you say
G'day,
hello? You say,
g'day,
good day, right?
hey.
Good day. And that brings a smile to your face. So you have already built into your language this positivity. And so like you want laugh lines and smile lines. So I
I know, and
create
women are trying to get rid of them.
ah
They're trying to
yeah,
erase them. I just don't
no.
understand that. I like to have a map of where I've been.
I definitely am with you. And I want them to be smile lines and laugh lines. And I
Yes.
get it. If they're frown lines, get rid of them. I don't want to see them. But if they're laugh lines and smile lines, I'm all for it. And so the second thing is the cheer word. Like what word that you say it brings a smile to your face, but also ends with a smile, right? So like, is it my granddaughter Andalisa? Like it leaves you with a smile, and the word smile, the good day, no worries. These like find a word, that leaves a smile, makes you smile and use it throughout the day. Put it, and really start shifting your physiology. We know like, you know, 20 years ago, we may have said this is soft science. This is not. This is well founded research that shifts our neurotransmitters, our physiology, and our energetic potential. So, cheer work. So, and then, who did you connect with? And what's your oxytocin activity? So, on my checklist for clients, I think it's so important that we do that so that we're focusing on the positive instead of the negative all the time. And so, like, if we can shift our physiology with that, that's important. And I had a patient recently, and she's 37. She had 3 kids at home, and she was very anxious, had brain fog. She'd always have her mom on the phone when we talked, so her mom could take notes. And she was having, weight gain issues, and I asked her. I said, I'd been working with her for a couple months before I asked her this question, so I learned to ask it a lot earlier. But I said, "What are you doing for fun? What do you do for play? What brings you joy?" And she goes, or what have you done that you really love doing? And she said, I love dancing. I love dancing to music. And I used to dance as a girl and I loved it. And I said, well, do you think you could do that again? She goes, actually, there's a place not far from where I drop my kids off to school that I'll check into. And so when I saw her back, like I think it was 2 or 3 months later, first of all, she didn't put her mom on the phone. She goes, I am feeling so much better. I mean, we've
Oh,
done her hormones, her labs, her new vitamins, all that stuff. Nothing was moving the needle. She goes, I feel so much better. I'm at peace with myself. I'm so much more organized and happy. I said, well, what are you doing? I'm taking dance lessons 2 to 3 times a week,
oh, yes.
dance classes.
Dancing makes me so happy. And I do a static dance. I go to 5 rhythms once a week. It's a non-negotiable part of my self-care, and it just shifts your state. It
I
is
got to do that. I've
It's
always wanted to
so
try a class.
incredibly powerful, and, oh, I can so relate to what you're saying, and what I love so much about your work is this holistic approach that, yes, you're working with hormone replacement. You're also talking about diet and oxytocin and love practices and intimacy and all these things, and it's about finding and putting these pieces of the puzzle together. I want to ask you about cortisol and this relationship with belly fat and weight gain that you teach so beautifully in your community about this relationship with cortisol and the ability to manage your weight when you're going through perimenopause and menopause.
Yeah. So everything we can do to increase oxytocin and reset our circadian rhythm is going to help us manage cortisol. So we think about this too. And when we are pushing that cortisol pedal, that cortisol increases glucose in your body, which then increases insulin, which will drive glucose to increase fat. And we really see it in the waistline. So we see waist gain in this menopausal period because of this imbalance in cortisol, an increase in insulin, driving that fat into, an increase in fat. And that's critical to understand. So I look at them together and like, let's create insulin sensitivity, let's manage cortisol. And when you do, you actually do see that, hourglass figure come back. And I think that's really important. And also because with the gut, with as our hormones are shifting in the gut, we have a shift in our gut microbiome. So we really have to put more effort into keeping our gut healthy. So with the foods we're eating, with the nutrients that we're putting in our body, the probiotics if needed, and fermented foods, and prebiotics and postbiotics. We talk about all these things because we have such in America anyway, like a very corrupted diet. So you really have to put effort into having these healthy practices rebuild our gut. And that also helps with estrogen metabolism and detoxification. So we know these things. So they kind of work in hand. But when that cortisol is going up, we see that increase in glucose. You become more insulin resistant and you store more fat. So the key concepts of alkalinizing, intermittent fasting, low carbohydrate, eating like medicinal foods and herbs and spices. They were, like whoever thought about digging up garlic, right? It has medicinal
It
properties.
does.
It
Oh,
has
look,
medicinal
I
properties.
could put. Sometimes I put garlic in a smoothie. Just FYI, not a whole garlic clove, but well, if I'm doing a gazpacho style smoothie, yes. But oh gosh, I mean, some I can eat a clove of garlic like a tablet. It's so
I think
fabulous.
I'm going to go cook some right now.
Oh, it's just the bomb diggity, and it just makes everything taste amazing too. But yeah, look, this insulin resistance and our focus on blood sugar. That's why when we were talking, I just went, oh, this relationship between oxytocin and insulin, it was really cortisol, but I just had insulin on the brain because I just was reminding myself to ask you about this blood sugar piece because it's such an important indicator of health at any age. But for women
Yes.
over 40 in perimenopause and menopause, regulating our blood sugar is just paramount. And so many women get diagnosed with prediabetes over 40. So talk us through why this blood sugar, cortisol, oxytocin, this kind of relationship. And for those of you that are listening and not watching on YouTube, Anna's been holding up this hierarchy chart. So you may want to go back and take a look at it. Anna, do you mind holding it up again? If you want to go over to YouTube and actually watch it, it's a really, really just quick overview of the hormone hierarchy, which I love so much. So why do we need to be paying attention to our blood sugar?
It is so critically important. And, I'm a OBGYN by training. I triple boarded in integrative medicine and regenerative medicine, but my original training is all in OBGYN. So my first experience with glucose management was in, gestational diabetes
Mm.
and blood sugar management in pregnancy. Why does pregnancy become a state of increasing of like a risk for diabetes? What is happening in pregnancy? It's not that we're eating that much more, but what's really going on. And so that combination of hormones and becoming insulin resistant and the physiology of pregnancy was really always fascinated me. And so in working is and then in midlife, what's happening as we become and as I myself, you know, experience what my patients came in experience. Like they'd come in and say, Dr. Anna, I've gained 5, 10, 20 pounds without doing anything different. And as a young you know, doctor, I was like, sure, you're not doing anything. I didn't say that to him, of course, but sure, you're not doing anything different. I'll check your thyroid, I'll check these things, you know, but surely there's something you're doing different. You wouldn't just gain weight. And then I was 48 and had already lost 80 pounds. I'd been well over 240
Wow.
pounds, lost those 80 pounds, kept them off for
80.
several years. And then I started gaining weight literally without doing anything different in this time frame, 47 to 48. I
Yeah.
gained 20 pounds without doing anything different. And for anyone who's lost a significant amount of weight and starts gaining, you don't like, I going to be 300 pounds before this stop? Like, what is happening here? And that's when I realized, that importance. We're losing our anabolic hormones, our bone building, muscle building hormones, and were becoming more insulin resistant. Plus, I was in really high stress. I still had that PTSD. So that cortisol increasing glucose. And this is really, I think this is where everyone needs to be their own Nancy Drew, their own detective. I
I love
worked,
those books.
oh my God, I love read every
Me
one
too.
twice at least. Couldn't get my daughters to read them very much. I would read to
Really?
them, but yeah,
Maybe I'll
until
read.
they're on their own. Yeah. But oh, so good, so good. Right? So good. Those little hints
Oh,
and clues.
so
So
good.
I
Yeah.
think Nancy Drew made me a better doctor.
I love it.
So with you really trying to figure out wearing a continuous glucose monitor really helped me understand several things. First of all, like I've been doing keto green and was trying to understand what was going on, checking urine pH, and I would be in ketosis and have an alkaline urine pH when I get up and then have my black cup of coffee and be acidic. Well, that made sense because caffeine coffee is a very acidic. And if I'm
Yeah.
doing that on an empty stomach, that made sense. But I would be bumped out of ketosis. I'm like, wait, this is 0 calories. This is my double espresso. I mean, there is 0 calories in this.
But
And
it's an acidic orgy.
it's an acidic orgy, and that caffeine increases cortisol. And so it was bumping up my blood sugar. And so like that's destructive. And then another time I go in, I lecture to a group, an audience of several hundred people, and I go in fasting because my brain's clearer. But I was wearing my continuous glucose monitor during this time. And afterwards, I look at my monitor and my blood sugar had gone up to from like low 80s to 150 fasted because I was
Wow.
so stressed and nervous. So
Wow.
so when your glucose goes up, your insulin's going to go up. So when cortisol goes up, it drove up that stress because I was
Yep.
fasted, drove up my glucose, drove up my cortisol, drove up my glucose, then of course the insulin, and then it came down, but it stayed up for 30 minutes. 30 minutes at 150. And I was like, wow, that was insane. But that helped me help my patients. That helped
Yeah.
me adjust things so that it can be physiologically more balanced and add in those extra alkalinizers, really support my body during those high stress times. And that
And
can
you're
make
bringing up a really important point that we think that blood sugar is all about the food that we eat. And there are so many factors that affect our blood sugar that have nothing to do with food, stress being a really big one. And, really the message of this whole conversation is all roads lead back to the gut and oxytocin.
yes,
And so I
yeah,
want to ask you about sex because we
please
call you the
ask me
girlfriend. Let's
anything.
talk about sex because you are the girlfriend doctor. And so many women struggle with intimacy and connection and feeling disconnected and pain during intercourse. And you are helping so many women with
Thank you.
this.
Yeah.
So, listener, you may be experiencing this where you don't want to have sex, you've got low libido, it really, really hurts. You're thinking, am I ever going to enjoy sex again? Oh, Dr. Anna to the rescue. So,
Well, I'm here for you. I'm not afraid to talk about it. And I would say I'm the sexual health expert, not the relationship or technique expert. Let me just put in that disclaimer. But I mean, it's so important because our health span should equal our lifespan, but it should also equal our sex span. I mean, sexual health is about a lot more than sex. When I looked at this intimacy, drive, desire, divorce rate, gray divorces, what's going on there, and this disconnect in relationships, the sexless marriage, what's happening and what ages that affects. And I really looked at this and said, okay, well, when it comes to intimacy and desire, what what is really interfering with that? If we can narrow it down to simplistically, what are the key three things that interfere with that? And so I came up with the 3 Ds. Can you guess what they are?
oh, just tell me.
Dick is not one of them. So that does not affect. No, that is not one. But it comes to 3 issues: issues of desire, disconnect, and discomfort. These 3 things. So what are the things that can affect our desire? It can be, I mean, many things, right? Relationship stress, medications, pandemic stress. I mean, it can be a lot of things that affect desire. And the disconnect, we talk about oxytocin, cortisol, connection, disconnection. So that's a key piece, and that affects our relationships. And the third being discomfort. And as we age and we have, or, even postpartum, if we've had episiotomies or repairs or tears, it can be very painful for a long time. Like, I'm opposite OBGYN, but I also had a really big baby and tore in a very bad way, didn't have sex for a year after that.
Wow.
And so, but as we age, we have dryness, a change in the decrease in the elasticity if we're not addressing it. We'll have a decrease in the elasticity, pain with intercourse, a loss of pleasure and orgasm. And that discomfort, if it hurts every time you do something, why would you do it? Why would you do it? You wouldn't. If
To
I
please
mean,
your partner,
please your partner, to power through.
and then
But
it builds resentment.
well, and there's mirror neurons, right? If it
Mm.
hurts, I'm powering through. Those mirror neurons to your partner are like, wait, she's not having pleasure. There's a disconnect. There's mirror neurons here that are happening. And what and I teach this in my Secrets and Science of Sexual Desire masterclass, but the key secret, like the number one turn on for a guy is her turn on, his partner's turn on.
Yeah.
So your joy, your pleasure, your happiness, sex is for you, not for him. If you're having sex, it's for you. It is all about you. Like, tap into your pleasure. That is the best turn on for you and your partner. But that's a key piece of it. And so addressing genitourinary syndrome of menopause, I call it that, GSM now. I like it's, such terrible terminology that we use for women. I mean, like a woman over 35, when I was 41 and had a child, my diagnosis was elderly multigravida. I mean, like it's just a geriatric pregnancy. I mean, you have these terrible terminal
Terms that
terms.
have been created by men, typically.
Totally,
Um,
totally. I would
yeah.
call it something else, like, you know, robin's eggs, or
You
I don't know. I
really
would
came
call
up
it
with the term geriatric pregnancy. I mean, you're in
not a
your
woman.
30s and you're technically in a geriatric pregnancy. Oh,
Totally. After age 35, you're a
yeah,
geriatric
it's
pregnancy.
ridiculous. Yeah.
Yep. And and so, like, this is it's such an important association to make. So we will look at these changes, and I always look at, the what are our pleasure zones, our clitoris to anus. I mean, a tremendous amount of nerve endings in the clitoris, over 8,000, more than our fingertip, right? So we've got these incredible nerve endings. The clitoris is specifically designed for pleasure. God gave it to us for pleasure. We are designed that way for pleasure. Anatomically, that is our pleasure. It does not have an age limit on that pleasure zone. And so keeping it healthy is part of our, that's like part of our right to keep it healthy. And the vulvar, the anal tissue, again, nerve endings around the anus, very sensitive, can be an erogenous zone for many. And then the vaginal opening itself, the vulvar vestibule, I mean, that can atrophy, shrink, and we lose that elasticity within the vagina, the rugation, the natural folds. And so I have found we have to add hormones back to that area, or pro hormones. And that's one of the reasons I created my product, Julva, to
Oh,
address.
let's
Yeah, so
talk
good.
about vulva. I mean, happy vulva, happy life,
That
right?
is so true. Right. Absolutely. Yes. Oh my
And
gosh.
I'm
I
so
love that. I'm going to use
excited that
that.
more and more women are recognizing the importance of vaginal estrogen.
Yes. And I think this is the important piece. Vaginal estrogen is good, but for me, like vaginal DHEA is even better. But
Oh,
also, because we're focusing on the vagina now, great. But what about the poor clitoris? Who's like focusing on that? Like, so we've got to add back hormones. I created Julva with alpine rose plant stem cells and DHEA for that, and emollients to drive the ingredients deep into the tissue for that rejuvenating, you know, age reversing, youthful, really help with blood flow, help with nourishment of those tissues, these vital, this, I say, most prime real estate of our body. So
absolutely.
right. So I mean, it's important, and it goes beyond, like, we talk about sex and sexual health, but the issues that create debilitation are those vaginal infections,
Yeah.
the odor, the urinary infections, urinary tract, asymptomatic urinary tract infections and incontinence issues lead to that midnight walk to, or that 2 a.m. walk to the bathroom, and loss of balance and fall as we get older, leading to a broken hip. So, like I was saying, okay, what's the best things I can do to prevent my kids putting me in a nursing home when I'm older? I'm like, okay,
is is
how much?
is pay attention to my clitoris.
That's right. Urethra, clitoris, vagina, like forget. I would keep that area healthy because I don't want to deal with, getting put in a nursing home. And the straw
Oh,
that
I
breaks a
love it.
caregiver's back is incontinence.
Oh,
So we
yeah.
don't think about that. And vaginal estrogen doesn't significantly help with incontinence, but DHEA and testosterone both do. Vulvar and vaginally applied. It makes a huge difference.
Look, I have put so many women in our Skinny 60 community onto Julva because it's such a huge percentage of people when we send out our questionnaire at the beginning of our program, and a lot of it's about nutrition for our dietitians, but so many women, when we ask about what are some of the obstacles to you feeling like you're in great health, it's I'm not having sex because it's pain during intercourse. I feel disconnected. I'm not experiencing intimacy and joy and all the things we've been talking about. And so I send them on over to you, over to Dr. Anna. And this product is literally life changing. I use it every day. I know you use it every day.
Today.
So let's dive in a little bit more about how we apply it and why it's so great and why you feel the difference when you don't use it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Because we want to restore the anatomy. I know many people are listening, not watching, but have my handy pelvis here. And the like external vulvar anatomy, again, the clitoris perfectly designed with good blood flow and nerve endings, over 8,000 we know. And the entire vulvar tissue is very vascular. It's thin, it's mucosal. And so it can so applying it clitoris to anus, like for some people, I just say massage it in, just like you massage any cream in anywhere or whatever. But the skincare for your pelvic area is critical to optimal health. So clitoris to anus, massage it in. If you're adverse to that at this time, we'll get you over it, I promise. But you could put it on toilet paper and wipe with it. For some of my clients that have elderly parents that they're caring for, they'll do that. They'll make sure that they can wipe with it, but to put it on daily, because that's just going to regenerate. You can put it on the vaginal orifice. You can use it before or during sex. It's perfectly safe for a male partner, where estrogen, you want to avoid immediate contact of estrogen with your male partner unless he needs some estrogen. Give him some estrogen.
But I love that you're drawing the distinction between vaginal estrogen and vaginal DHEA. It's I just think this product is so extraordinary. And so do you put it on in the evening? You put it
I,
on. That's when you put it on.
I do it in the morning.
You put it on in the morning.
I
Okay.
do for me, I do it in the morning. Yeah,
Okay.
it's part of my morning routine, and it's just part of my routine. But I tell clients, like, are you an early bird or a night owl? What are you more strict on with your routine? If you're both, great, but like choose, either morning or evening. It's fine at either time. I'm
Because I
usually
like
like,
to
I
put it on
do trash
after a
at night.
shower. I like to be super clean down there, and then I can get in there with my finger and go clitoris, vagina to anus, like you said. And it's this
That's right.
lovely little ritual. It's wonderful. And, it is so important to talk about sex and to get comfortable with talking about our bodies. And you're so comfortable and put people at ease and give a safe space to be able to do that. So thank you, because this is such an important part of it, that we want to be enjoying sex as older women. Your sex
Yeah.
life is not over, in your 20s and 30s. In fact, gosh, my friends in their 50s, 60s, and 70s say that their sex lives are better now than they were in their
Whew.
20s, right? I know. Hello. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And
Well, and that increases oxytocin, that keeps
yes,
that intimacy and connection, and that is
yes.
longevity. Yeah.
Yeah, and most people are embarrassed to talk about masturbation. So I loved how you said that earlier when we were talking about oxytocin bars and getting these oxytocin microdoses throughout the day, that masturbation is a beautiful thing. If you have a partner or if you don't have a partner.
Right. I like to use the word self-pleasuring. I do.
Okay,
I
let's
like
use
to
that
use
word.
let's use self-pleasuring because I
Yeah.
look at the origins of the word masturbation. And so it is
Okay,
self-pleasuring.
I love that. Yeah.
Self-pleasuring, right? Because that's what I'm doing. I am self-pleasuring, and that is important, right? That is important. It's like the caressing, taking care of your body. We were take care of our faces, we take care of our teeth, and
Yeah.
the vaginal vulvar health is as important as our oral health. So,
Ye
and that sexual piece, that being able to express yourself, what you
yes.
like, feel empowered. And I think that's what, I honestly, menopause, gives us that freedom and that lack of tolerance. Like I'm speaking my truth. And this is the time to speak my truth. And what am I feeling? How does this feel? What do I like? And start expressing that in and outside the bedroom. Like, really start express like I always tell clients that are uncomfortable, just start like if you have a partner or not, but what do you like doing? How does it make you feel? Like even if you're washing dishes, what are you feeling? What can you bring
Yeah.
pleasure into that experience? Can you be very present with that experience? Can you make it a meditation? And how
Oh,
can you
I
tie
love
it all?
thinking about self-pleasure as a meditation, because if you don't
Oh, that's
understand
good.
your own body and what you like, and you have a relationship with your own pleasure, how can you communicate and share your pleasure with another in intimate connection? So
Mhm.
Kerry Kaligi, who I was interviewing on the podcast, talked about how she realized through somatic practices and tantric practices that her pleasure was her own. Pleasure wasn't something that somebody else gave to her. And that's a really important shift in thinking for us, because we think of sex as, oh, a man's going to give it to me or a woman's going to give it to me or whatever our sexual preferences are. But what you're saying is so on point, and it really deeply resonates with me, that we really do need to be cultivating this practice of self pleasure like we're brushing our teeth.
I like how you said self pleasure as a meditation.
Oh,
That
yes.
feels good. That feels
Doesn't
good.
it? That
Yeah.
feels yummy. Yeah, that just feels
Write this
really
down.
delicious. Oh gosh, I gave something to you. Oh,
Totally, I love that.
that's an
Self-pleasure
oxytocin
as a
rush for me,
meditation.
because you've given me so many great tips and sayings, and oh gosh, you've just got so many things that have just helped so myself and so many people in our community.
Thank you.
I want to ask you about hormones. So we've been talking about a lot of this lifestyle stuff, but you are an OBGYN, and you do work with hormones. So for a listener, dear listener, somebody who is afraid to even think about hormone replacement because of that ridiculous study that, thank God, has been debunked now, what would you say about seeking out, a really great OBGYN who's trained in menopause like you? That
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
understands, because the OBGYN that delivered our babies may not be the OBGYN that's appropriate for us in our 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Right. Or maybe a naturopath or a functional
Yep.
medicine provider. I mean, I always tell clients, I say, first of all, you know, there's no age limit on feeling your best. We've got to do it takes more
Yeah.
than hormones to fix your hormones. So do these lifestyle factors, the keto green method for me, following Tess's, plans and programs. I mean, that's so foundational. That is key. And now when it comes to hormone, this is the icing on the cake, and that we can use it for longevity. And I always like to, I'm on the I want to optimize, but I'm going to use low levels of hormones, especially after menopause, but optimize it and really work with all these other aspects. I want our adrenals to function. I want to keep our ovaries functioning as long as possible. I want to keep our thyroid functioning healthfully as long as possible. Our heart, all of our brain. I mean, all of these things is so critically important. Now, when it comes to hormones, I always tell clients, like, would there be an age limit? Like if you're a certain age, do they ever say, oh, we need to stop your thyroid hormone? Or at a certain age, we need to stop your insulin, I mean, these other bioidentical hormones, why are we saying at a certain age we have to stop this?
'Cause we're
And
societally conditioned that it's all
how we're
downhill
conditioned.
over
It is
50.
not science. It is
Yeah.
not science. It is
Uh,
not based in science. And if we look at the synthetic medications, like if I use bioidentical, postmenopause, I like transdermal, not oral estrogen. We can do oral progesterone. That's fine. Bioidentical and not the synthetic. So it really is like this massaging. And I tell clients, like, first, we want to optimize health and do this in a healthy way because how our hormones detox are key. But secondly, like, call a compounding pharmacy. You guys have compounding pharmacies in
mhm,
Australia,
mhm.
right?
Yes.
Call a compounding pharmacy and say, who's doing hormones really well? Not too much, not too little. Who's doing hormones really well? Like, who, when your patients come in, they look good, they feel good, like, who's doing hormones really well? And for women specifically, and your age, and be very specific versus men, and or pumping pellets into someone, you want to do it in a restorative and supportive way. So who's doing it well? And compounding pharmacists will know. They'll give you names.
Yeah, and I love the way that you think about hormone replacement as a supplement, not the one fix. And your book, The Hormone Fix, is about this holistic view of
Yeah.
and optimizing rather than balancing. This term of optimizing your hormone function. Oh gosh, I could talk to you
And
about
it's
all
it's
day long.
those foundations, right? It's good night's sleep, it's
Yeah.
detoxifying, supporting liver, kidney, bowel function, having those daily bowel movements, clean air, clean water, good community, good relationships, positivity, all those things, like, that comes into really important, comes into play.
It was really interesting what you were saying before about how you had that patient come in and she was taking hormones and doing some of these other things, and it wasn't moving the needle
Yeah.
until you talked about the oxytocin piece and putting some of these lifestyle practices into play, and then everything shifted for her.
Everything.
Yeah, and this oh gosh, I mean, can we
But
talk
it's so important because you have
about
hormone clinics, these, on corners now, and they're not even seeing a patient. And they're like, okay, we'll just, send you these hormones. I mean, that's
Oh,
not, for me, I can't practice that way. But
no.
that's why I want everyone to be educated, to understand the fundamentals. 99% is our nutrition and lifestyle. It
Yeah.
really is. And that 1%, that can be the icing on the cake. But that is, I mean, it really, and I think more and more as I tap into what I love doing and getting out in nature and being with my animals, spending time with my daughters, and doing things, playing pickleball. I mean, doing things I love doing.
I knew you were a pickleball player.
I used to have a tennis court.
I
So
know, me
like,
too. Yes.
gone.
Well, I mean, the studies about racket sports and how it really helps with brain health, the hand-eye coordination and longevity, it's so powerful. So if you're not playing a racket sport, get to it. I mean, it's
Get
yeah,
to it.
we're tennis
Yeah.
people. I mean, we are just hardcore tennis people. It's so amazing. But pickleball is really gaining steam in Australia, which is amazing. But yeah, pickleball, my goodness, that man that created it for his kids. I mean, who knew that story?
Brilliant.
Isn't it brilliant? It's so incredible. I just want to ask you though, just to pick up on what you were saying about why you prefer bioidentical hormones as opposed to synthetic hormones. I know some listeners are going to write in and I won't have followed up with that with you. So I just want to make sure we cover it.
Yeah, I'm going to give you the research on that because, this is the area I train physicians in hormones and longevity management. But what do we know? We know from the studies, from the HERS trial to the Women's Health Initiative study and the follow up studies, that oral progestins have a negative cardiovascular profile and also associated with an increased risk of breast cancer. And it gets small, but increased. So, but oral micronized progesterone or bioidentical progesterone does not. So why would we choose a more inferior? Now, sometimes like there's reasons that we need to use a synthetic for one reason or not, but I haven't written a prescription for a synthetic hormone in 20 years now. And so we're able to get good results. And then oral estrogens, the study with Women's Health Initiative, they used Premarin. Now, even with this oral estrogen, it did not increase the risk of breast cancer. So, like, that fear was unfounded. It was the progestin, the Provera, which is a toxic progestin that increased the risk and had negative cardiovascular profile. The oral estrogen did increase strokes. So we think, okay, well, then why would I use oral estrogen in a postmenopausal woman or someone at risk? We can use transdermal, the patches, we can use vaginal, we can use compounded creams. There's gels and sprays that are bioidentical, that have bioidentical estradiol in it. So there are ways that we can use bioidentical estrogens transdermally, and we know that has a safe cardiovascular profile. And Dr. Forney, I followed his work from 2005 through 2010, and he published, and in the middle, in 2008, he published a study looking at 88,000 women who were on different forms of progestins and progesterone. And he found that in this 88,000 women study published in 2008, so a long time now, y'all, they looked at oral micronized progesterone did not increase the risk of breast cancer, but the progestins did with the pregnane and norpregnane derivative. So, like a pregnane derivative would be Provera, a norpregnane derivative would be norethindrone. So, the pregnanes were the worst with a 3 to 4 times increased risk, and the norpregnane derivatives like norethindrone had a 2 to 3 times increased risk, or so, but oral micronized progesterone had a zero increased risk. And so we look at these things and say, okay, well, when we do it safely as a provider, and I work with clients with breast cancer, with all kinds, like people that no one wants to touch you. Like, I want to work with clients to empower their health, to create bodies inhospitable to cancer that are thriving and energetically positive and just loving life. And so I think that there's so much misinformation in the literature. Progesterone and progestins were used interchangeably. They're different molecules completely. And when I look at um, the mother hormones, I'm holding up my balance cream because I put pregnenolone and progesterone in it because they are both mother hormones. And I
Mm.
put some tripeptide for anti-aging, reducing age spots and wrinkles and stuff. Because if you're going to put a cream on, right, Tess, you want it to, like, you know,
Yeah,
make it look
you
good too,
do. I'm with
right?
you.
And
Yeah,
then
I
I
hear
will
you.
use it. I know myself, then I will use it, right? I will use it. So
Look,
if
we often discount transdermal application, and
yeah,
it's so incredibly powerful. And, you know,
if you have a healthy gut, right? Like,
thank
that's a key
you.
thing.
Oh God,
Yeah.
we're so on the same wavelength here. I was absolutely going to bring this up. The healthy gut piece is so key to all of this. Healthy gut, healthy life. Health, if your gut's in trouble, your health's in trouble. We know this. And this detoxification piece that you were talking about earlier, that we think it's all about more estrogen, more, and more is just more, and it can irritate, disrupt, and overwhelm the body. So I just want to reiterate with you again about how important this detoxification piece is with estrogen and progesterone and these sex hormones.
Oh, it's critical. It's critical because it's like you won't just keep putting oil in your engine without ever changing the filter. You would never
Oh,
do
thank
that. And I
you.
just thinking about that because my car has the oil light on. I'm like, I'm like, I just want to put oil in. I'm like, you can't do it without changing the filter. Okay. So, and it's the same truth. The truth is with us too. Like, so you have to detox. The liver is so powerful. And now, like, there's an epidemic of fatty liver, even in kids.
Oh,
So
it's
you've
so
got to
alarming.
detox, support the liver. And you have to support the gut microbiome. Like, it's been destroyed from antibiotics and pesticides and herbicides and different things. So we really have to work on this, really organic nature of our organic bodies that are also energy bodies, and the energetic nature of our energy bodies, and that piece, like, I think all of this makes a difference. Joe Dispenza did a study looking at the gut microbiome, and in a week of his course is usually a week long, and they do meditations every day for 7 days. They did a pre and post test and found an improvement in all of the participants in their gut microbiome. Now they're all eating at the same hotel or close by or wherever they're at, but there was an improvement in the gut microbiome. I don't necessarily think people eat healthier when they eat out. I think they eat less healthy potentially when they eat out. So to have those results showing through that week of meditation, positivity, oxytocin increasing practice of meditation, good community, you know, you're doing something good, you're in these healing circles and all that good stuff, that affects your microbiome that quickly. I think that's really powerful information. We can shift it between not just what we eat, but all the other things that we talk about and love doing.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I'm just gonna do the big celebration of oxytocin. I
Yes.
love I love how everyone on your team now has the oxytocin signature in their email. It's just all about oxytocin. And so,
Yeah.
thank you for shining a light on that and really putting it, in the spotlight where it belongs because it's so beautiful.
Well, it's the most important. And I'll add one more thing on the gut discussion. But I found out early in my practice that, like, for some women, like I'm using creams, but they're not getting the benefit, or I'm using a topical patch or a gel or whatever it is, and they weren't getting the benefit. They go higher and higher doses. I'm like, what's going on? And then when I learned about the gut, I'm like, oh, they're bloating, they're constipated, their gut's unhealthy. And like if your gut's unhealthy, your skin's not a good transmitter. So we'll bypass to the
Mhm.
vagina temporarily while or other ways until we get that gut healthy. But if your gut's not healthy, you're not healthy. Right.
Oh,
You
yeah.
won't absorb the hormones as well.
That is the thing, isn't it? That whole thing of you are what you eat, it's technically not accurate. You're literally what you digest and absorb. And if
Ah,
your
I
gut
love that.
is not in place, not in balance, we can't absorb things and we want to be, absorbing things through the skin effectively. Oh, yeah, look, I mean, gut health, gut health, gut health. That is the center of everything that we do. And I know it's very central to everything you do as well. It's just I'm so grateful that more and more people are realizing the importance of the gut microbiome. Um, oh, Anna, I wish I was coming to Bali with you.
I
Like,
know.
we
Come.
could just hug it out and have like this oxytocin celebration, right? I mean, I just love Ubud so much. So I always close every episode with the same question, which is for someone who has a dream in their heart and doesn't feel like they have what it takes to make it happen, what would you say?
Well, I think the most important thing is I would touch base with that and say, where am I limiting myself? I would think of
Mhm.
that. And I think to NASA, they say, the sky is not the limit because we've proven that, right? I've been to space. So the sky is not the limit. And I would play with, like, if I didn't have these limitations, if I didn't have to think of how it would happen, what would I create in my life without the how? And like, dare to dream. I just say, dare to dream. So important.
Mm. Oh, thank you. I feel like a plant that's been watered. Oh, so much fantastic information. It's one of those episodes where you may want to go back and listen to it again, or go to our website at ithastobeme.com and look at Anna's guest page where you can look at the pull quotes and the key takeaways and get all of the links to the resources that we were talking about. And the links to the resources are also in the show notes. The importance of a holistic approach to health, particularly during perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, as we age, that the best pharmacy in the world is your own body. And the value of combining Western and Eastern methodologies, incorporating holistic practices, that there's no age limit to feeling your best, but it takes more than hormones to fix your hormones. And thinking of hormone replacement as a supplement to better nutrition and lifestyle practices, that they form the foundation of better health, and hormone replacement is the icing on the cake. So find a good hormone doctor that knows about bioidentical hormones and is really going to look at your whole story like Anna does. I love her approach. I want to empower people to create healthy bodies inhospitable to disease, bodies that are thriving and energetically positive and loving life. Those of you in the Skinny 60 community who have done our 60-day reset, it was very validating to listen to all of her suggestions because those are all the things that we do in our program. So looking after gut health was interesting what she was saying about the connection between gut health and hormones, that as our hormones are changing, we have a shift in our gut microbiome. So during menopause, we have to put more effort into keeping our gut healthy with plant foods and fermented foods and those prebiotics, postbiotics, probiotics, rebuilding our gut health helps with better blood sugar, insulin sensitivity, and estrogen metabolism and detoxification. Taking in high quality protein, healthy fats, and medicinal plants like cruciferous veggies. That detoxification piece with estrogen and progesterone and these sex hormones, it is just so important that we keep our gut and our liver strong and healthy so we have all those clean pathways. So if your gut's unhealthy, your body isn't a good transmitter. So you actually won't absorb the hormones if you are on hormone replacement, particularly transdermally through your skin. And the importance of maintaining an alkaline state wherever possible, checking the pH of our urine morning and evening, and looking after our stress, and really just bringing more joy and connection into our lives. The cortisol is acid forming, inflammatory, and love and joy and connection is alkaline forming. It's anti-inflammatory. And the power of intermittent fasting during menopause, the power of maca, Peruvian Viagra as an adaptogen to support our adrenals for better energy, and it promotes better hormone production and detox for better sexual function, and it can help decrease hot flashes. And maintaining control of those control hormones, cortisol, insulin, adrenaline, and in that hormone hierarchy, oxytocin is the queen. She's the mother of all of it. So the importance of managing our stress, that relationship between cortisol and oxytocin, and how we can manage our stress and then bring more oxytocin into our life mindfully. I love it how she says we need to microdose oxytocin throughout the day with sex and self-pleasuring, with physical touch, with, hugging, laughing, dancing, singing, playing, being around animals, spiritual practices, meditation, prayer, gratitude, positive thinking. I loved when she said, what is your cheer word? What brings in a smile and ends with a smile? How it can actually shift your physiology with the neurotransmitters and your energetic potential. That we're moving beyond hormone replacement. We're moving beyond just nutrition, beyond just one strategy and one strategy only. We're putting all of these different pieces together to create the puzzle that is you. It's really about longevity and quality of life. I loved when she said our health span should equal our lifespan, and it should also equal our sex span. So this connection and intimacy piece, I love the way that she thinks about it, that sexual health is about more than sex. It's about the 3Ds: desire, disconnection, discomfort, what affects your desire, what keeps you disconnected, what keeps you connected, what is the source of your discomfort. And so you can manage it and experience more joy and pleasure. And tapping into your own pleasure for longevity, that the number one way to turn on your partner is your joy, pleasure, and happiness. And thinking about self-pleasure as meditation and cultivating a practice of self-pleasuring. It doesn't even need to be sexual necessarily, just stroking yourself, laughing, dancing, being with yourself in this really beautiful way. And sexual pleasuring is also beautiful, just like brushing our teeth, that it's sexual health is as important as oral health and the things that we're looking after every day. I highly recommend taking her Secrets and Science of Sexual Desire masterclass, and just thinking about all the ways that you can increase oxytocin, and how by keeping intimacy and connection alive improves our longevity. And those pleasure zones, of the vulva and the vagina and the anal tissue, that vaginal DHEA, like in her Julva cream, goes beyond vaginal estrogen to nourish and rejuvenate the prime real estate, as she calls it, of the body for sexual health and pleasure. And it can also help with urinary tract infections and incontinence, and vaginal estrogen doesn't significantly help with that, but DHEA and testosterone do. And if you are going to try Julva, massaging it in the morning or the evening, you can do it before or during sex. And I really appreciated what she was saying about using sexual desire and sexual pleasure and being with yourself in that way as a portal of learning to speak your truth, figuring out how you feel, what you like, what gives you pleasure and joy, and using that as an entry point for how you would start expressing yourself inside and outside the bedroom. And next week, I'm going to be speaking to Justin and London about sacred sexuality, and we will continue this conversation. So I deliberately put Anna this week and Justin and London next week so we can continue this conversation. And they're going to be speaking about it in a different way, but equally important way. So, I am so excited to hear what resonated with you from this conversation. Definitely enter Anna's world because it is absolutely extraordinary and it is life-changing. So please leave a review, share what resonated with you from this episode, post in the Facebook group and share with me how some of these resources are changing things for you. But yeah, it's not all downhill after 50. We can experience pleasure and joy and vitality. We just got to put these pieces together.
I want to hear about your It Has to Be Me story. So head on over to ithastobeme.com/stories to share it in our free community. You can also join the conversations we're having about this episode and others. I'm Tess Masters. Join me next week and we'll dive inside another great story to help us go from dreaming to doing.